A little over 2 years ago, I stopped watching the majority of YouTube videos or reading articles that talked specifically about dating over 40. And that's because the majority of them were just bitterly disparaging about being 40 and even daring to date. You were seen as somebody who is way past your prime, and you were viewed as needy, you nagged, you were bitter, and most of all, you had a lot of baggage. But those weren't my issues, and I thoroughly enjoyed dating, and I actually enjoy it even more now, specifically in my 40s. It's such a great space. I feel a lot more confident. The experience of the years before and what I want are things that are very much dictated a really fun scene for me. And I wanted to come online and just trade war stories with other people and find out what has been your experience, because not everything is doom and gloom. There is a lot of fun to be had, and particularly I find being over 40, just being better placed, both physically, both mentally, to just really enjoy the experience and get what you want from it. I'm Anesu Sagonda, and I manage a luxury lifestyle management business in London. My content is largely educationally focused and geared towards people who are typically new to money or keen to explore alternate mid-lux or super brands that are a little under the radar but still heavily weighted on quality. There's an expression by the American poet E. E. Cummings that goes, "It takes courage to grow up and become who you really are." And I remember in my late 30s, that was the expression that anchored me in preparation for my 40s. And it's something that I wanted to really prepare for and turn up strongly in terms of my career, relationships, health and fitness. And I put a plan in place, which I executed. And it's only now when I look back in hindsight, I appreciate the benefits of what I've done. And one of them specifically was the dating, the relationships. And what I wanted to do was just to have a different experience to what I'd had in my 20s and 30s. It was a lot more erratic. It was just all over the place. And I didn't always enjoy the experience. But in my 40s, I just wanted relationships that were a lot more calmer, a lot more productive, that were happier overall. And I just didn't buy into the negative press that was out there, because I'm someone who's always believed in what you put out there is what you get back. And so in preparation, one of the things that was really important was just to look at myself first and foremost. Who am I? What am I about? And to just work on myself. And one thing that I found that really helped and made a difference was just spending time on my own, and spending time in every context. Going out, traveling, dining, cinema, just hanging out on my own, and just enjoying experiences without anyone around me, nobody watching you. And there's an expression where they talk about you get to know who you really are when no one's watching. How do you react, especially in a situation that can potentially compromise you? But I found I thrived in situations like that. And I remember one particular occasion, I was on South Bank. It's an area, for those who are not in London, that is by the riverfront, the River Thames. And it's an area where they have a number of theatres, and also at the weekend they have a lot of food trucks, and there's a lot of street food going on around there. And I remember this one particular random Saturday, I arrived there and I was intending to have something to eat and then wander around, look at the different exhibitions that were happening. Being summer, there's always something going on in South Bank. And I was by the stand where they sell corn on the cob, and it was being roasted, and I ordered and waited. And there's a young man who came and started chatting to me. And when I say young man, I'm being polite. He was a good 15 years older than me. He was about early 50s. And we started chatting and hit it off, and we were both waiting for corn on the cob. And then afterwards they said, "Oh, do you want to sit down and chat?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Sat down, had the corn on the cob, got some drinks, carried on chatting, and then I started feeling hungry. And that's what I'd intended to do, have something as an appetizer and then go around and get something else in a different part of South Bank. And then he said, "Oh," we just flowed and ended up spending the whole day together, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable experience. And it was unprompted, unscripted. We didn't know each other. We're two strangers. We didn't even know each other's names until possibly 2 hours into the conversation. But conversation just flowed, and we had a very good time. And I remember at the end of the evening, he thanked me profusely and just said, it's just nice to meet people, nice to meet women who have no hang-ups, no attitude. When you start talking to them, they don't give you this attitude that just puts you off, but you are just so open from start to finish, and I've enjoyed this, and I hope we can do this regularly. And I felt so bad because I was focused. I wanted to find somebody who I could date. I didn't want male friends. I've always been someone who doesn't believe men and women can be friends, and I wanted someone I could potentially have a relationship with, so I didn't think it was appropriate. But I was gracious and took his details and said I'd be in touch, and I did the horrible thing of never being in touch, and this is about 4 years ago, and I still feel bad to this day. But I just didn't want to string him along, and I didn't want to be friends. But what was important to me is to be gracious. There wasn't any part of our interaction that he could have come back and said, oh my goodness, she was an absolute nightmare, because I am gracious. That's who I am. But that incident was part of spending time on my own and just doing things, throwing myself in the deep end, something I would never have done before, and I really enjoyed. But there are a number of other things that I've just found have really put me in good standing, which have really helped in terms of just dating. And it's knowing, who do I want to date? I am somebody who is physically, I look younger than my age, and I tend to get younger men who will approach me, but I personally prefer men who are older than me, so a good 10 years older than me. My sweet spot, I find, is between 52 and 58. That age seems to work very well. And I stumbled across older men, and it wasn't so much before anybody jumps down my throat in the comments and says daddy issues. I had the most loving relationship with the male figure in my life who raised me, and he set such a high benchmark. It has made it very difficult for me to settle because I've had such high standards, and we're now living in a very different time to when my male figure was raising me. His attitude, his values were very different to people now. So I struggle to find that middle ground where I can meet someone who appreciates what it is to love unconditionally, to just be there for you, to be a person of your word, a man of integrity. But I like that older age group. And I know a number of women say to me, oh my goodness, they want to tell you what to do. They're so full of it. I haven't had that experience. If anything, I have met men who typically, they've been around the block. By the time you're 52, you've been around the block, you've been married maybe once or twice, you're pretty much house trained, you know the deal when it comes to relationships. And I've found with men in that age group, they just want somebody to love. They know where they've made the mistakes in their lives, and they just want someone to love. They want someone for the latter part. They're in a good space, typically financially, emotionally. They're just in a much better space, and they just want to love and be loved. And so I found that has worked superbly well. And just from the personality point of view as well, they're very calm. There's no drama, there's no shouting, there are no issues. Everything is just very grown up and very civilized in terms of how you deal with issues when things come up, the conversation between you, how you resolve things. It's been amazing. So getting to know myself, knowing who I want, and then also communicating, not being scared to say this doesn't work for me, even if it's a deal breaker, and moving on, having standards, knowing what's important to you, what you want out of it, and going for it. And even if it's not a relationship, but maybe just a one-night stand, it's okay. I remember hearing a lot of videos where 20 and 30-year-olds were saying, is it all right to have sex on the first date, and making such a big fuss about it. But actually, it is okay, especially if it's two consenting adults who know what they're doing, who know the deal, who are comfortable, who have communicated, and they know what it's about. The other thing is being an equal opportunities dater. So going out with someone who may not tick all your major boxes, but they tick some of them, and you may find that they have other qualities that somewhat redeem the situation. And even if it's not the right person and you decide after the first date, at least one date, be gracious enough to end it well. And it's never, for me, it's never been about saying, oh, I thought you were short or you weren't too smart. Intelligence is a very big thing for me. It's more about, I don't think I was the right fit for you, because you weren't, because you can't look past whatever it is that they presented to you. It's about you. It's not about them. They are still the same person, but you just can't accept that thing that they may have done or have. And as I mentioned earlier, I know my target audience. I like men who are a certain age. I also like men who are incredibly intelligent. That is my biggest turn on. But what I have found, and it's quite interesting when people say, oh, you're over 40, you're past your prime. The type of men that I have met, I mean, granted, nobody's perfect. They have wanted a woman, they're typically accomplished, but they want a woman who's a ride or die chick. She's sitting up front in the passenger seat next to them, or also driving. Somebody who they know can help with their life, can help with their business, who adds value, and not just somebody who physically looks good. Men are physical creatures after all, but the important thing is just somebody who matches them intellectually, who matches them in terms of just being able to look at the bigger picture and slot in and add value to that person. So look for somebody possibly out of your comfort zone. You don't know who you may meet, and they could actually open other doors. I've always felt nothing happens in life, it just happens. Things happen for a reason, and that person could then open another door, which then ultimately opens the door that leads to marriage or dating, or somebody who you want on a long-term basis, or maybe a more casual basis, but somebody who may be better suited to you. The other thing that I found that really helped and was such a game changer is actually putting out in the universe what you're looking for. I know it sounds crazy when they say write things down. I mean, there's so many videos that talk about the law of attraction, writing things down, saying things. Once it's in the universe, it's going to come to reality. That stuff is really true. I found when I have put things out, even if it's someone specific, a particular man, I have either bumped into them a couple of days later, or something crazy has happened which has made me realize just the power of words and how you've got to be so careful with what you put out there. But touch wood, it's been very good experiences, but I've put out the type of man I want, even down to the details of what he looks like, his personality, his career, and so forth. That stuff really works. And I've just found you put it out there, let it go, don't dwell on it, don't keep thinking about it. But once it's out there and you've forgotten about it, you find the universe has a way of just making it all come to you. The other thing I found is not everybody wishes you well. Not everybody wants you to be happy or to succeed. And to play your cards a little close to your chest, the other thing is not necessarily just talking about your relationship. You will have people who will try and destabilize it in one way or the other. But just enjoy it. Enjoy it quietly, because people sadly destroy a good thing. It might be down to their own insecurities, their own issues, and absolutely nothing to do with you. But you are having such a good time and you say something to a girlfriend, and then the next thing they're telling you crazy things. I remember dating someone and telling people, and then they would say, oh, your friend called me and asked me on a date. And you're like, but she knows I'm dating you. Why would you do that? So I've just learned, play your cards close to your chest. Tell as few people, and those people who you know truly have your back. But there are just a number of things that I've done that have really made a difference. But the most important thing is prioritizing my happiness and saying, I want to be happy. And my happiness comes in this shape, in this form, and going for it. Just going with the flow, having fun, and seeing where things take you, especially when you're just not hung up on, I want this and this is how it has to be done, but just being open to whatever happens, and enjoying the journey. But dating over 40, it's a lot of fun. I'm in a great space. I'm a lot more confident. I'm happier. I know what I want, and it's just proved to be incredibly fruitful. Let me know your comments down below. But I'm all about positivity. I'm all about having a good time. You live your best life once, and there are no dress rehearsals, so you've got to make it happen. But let me know how you've all got on in the comments down below. But otherwise, remember to share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.